Just now?
Oh, okay.
Just turned it on. I said, okay.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. Recorder on. Okay. Okay, we'll call the meeting to order. I am here because our chair and vice chair are not here. So you guys do the short straw and get the previous chair. So yeah, I know. And with that, we will do our roll call.
Here. Bill Hill.
Here.
Jeff Johnson.
Here.
Not here. Andy Richardson is not here. Here. And Anna Suarez.
Please stand for a flag salute. Yes.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome, everybody. We've got our agenda here, should be on your tablets and probably a hard copy there as well. There is no revised agenda, so it is what's in front of you there. And so we just need a motion to approve the agenda.
I make the motion to approve the agenda.
Dr. Annis made the motion to approve. Donna seconded. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passed unanimously. We are going to, is there any citizens requests of the board? No citizens requests of the board. So, and I am being told that we are going to move Ariel up to the front here. And so if you want to come on up, we're going to go ahead and go to 4.2, board members, 4.2, and do Myrtle Creek Elementary Continuous Improvement Plan. Welcome.
Thank you.
When we get that going, I'll go ahead and introduce myself. I'm Ariel Mines. I'm the principal at Myrtle Creek Elementary. This is my 5th year at Myrtle Creek, but my 7th or 8th year in the district. I taught 4th grade at Canyonville prior. This time getting to do my SIP presentation. You want me to go over this?
No, not necessarily.
Okay, here's just kind of a snapshot of where we were at the beginning of the year. We have 32% of our students who are on or above our reading assessment data right now. 45% of our students from grades second through 5th are on or above in their AMAP. And the reason we have 2nd through 5th is because K1 takes a different assessment. And our areas of growth are reading, math, and attendance, which is something we've been working on. I'm going to go over the goals and then the action steps for both my first goal and my second goal, because they're very similar. With my kindergarten students, we are going to try to move 80% to 20% in our high risk for letter sounds. So something we've looked at in the past is the composite score, which is everything they learn in reading at once. But we are really focusing on the letter sounds because we found that that is the most important indicator to them having success in reading in 1st grade. So that's what we're focusing on this year. And then grades 1st through 5th, we want to reduce the high risk category from 49 to 30, while we increase our students on from 38 to 50%. Reading too fast.
Yeah, you're fine.
Our second goal is very similar, but it's the math. So with math, there's two different tests. Our kinder and first grade take what's called A math, and then our second through fifth, they take, early math, and our second through fifth take A math. So for our kinder and first grade students, we want to reduce our high risk, which are our lowest kids, from 22 to 15%. And then our middle of the line, we're trying to move from 30 to 25, which would ultimately bump our kids who are on track. We don't want to forget about them, but we're trying to move our risk categories away from the red. And then for our second through fifth grade, similar, we're looking at moving from our high risk 26% to 15%. And then our that says SOC, I'm so sorry, it means some risk is from 29 to 15% by the end of the school year. So both of these are the same, but our reading, some of the things that we've changed in reading, that's not on this slide, it's on the former slide, is ECRI. Have we talked about ECRI?
We've not done an ECRI presentation yet. You feel free to share.
Let me get everyone would like to share. Okay, well that's good, because that is actually my most passionate subject right now. So with Kate and Erica's help, we started ECRI, and that's enhanced core reading instruction, and it's a very, very structured, routine reading enhancement that pairs with the curriculum we adopted 2 or 3 years ago now, Wonders. And they were able to get us training for not just our teachers, but our IAs as well. And we have Shelly, the coach, has trained the staff and then been back twice, and I think she comes back in January. And so she's been coming in and modeling and co-teaching with my teachers and then providing feedback to them on the spot, as well as in a debrief. And then school-wide, and just giving us next steps along with Lynn. And that has been probably the biggest change I've seen as a principal, because we are not just teaching the reading curriculum, but we're hitting it twice. We actually added 30 minutes to the reading block. So our lowest kids, those reds that we are focusing on moving, they're getting a pre-teach, ECRI, full group, as well as their intervention. So we are really hitting reading in Myrtle Creek right now 4 times a day. So it took a minute. One of my first grade teachers said, I wasn't feeling like we were making it. And then she came back after break and said, I can't believe what my kids know. But I had to step away to kind of see the growth for a minute. So that's been not only good for our kids, but our teachers are really growing their confidence as well. Coaching cycles. I have asked for a long time with some help for coaching, or I didn't even know actually. There's time I went to Kate and said, I don't know what help I need, I just need help. If you guys don't know a little bit of history with Myrtle Creek, we have 2 teachers per grade, and 1 of every 2 teachers is either still in a program or did not do their student teaching. And as much as I'd like to think I could hit every one of them and be what they needed, I needed help. And with their help today, or this year, they got us 4 coaches in addition to our 2 instructional coaches. They're with the ESD. They're in my building every single week, working with every single teacher. So they were assigned 2 to 3 teachers each, and it has been a complete game changer for me. I do not work with the coaches. I don't talk with them about necessarily what's happening in the classroom with those teachers, but I do debrief with them and see what feedback they can give us as a school. But that's been really helpful, really insightful. And again, I think it not only helps the kids, but it boosts my teachers to be where they need to be. With them getting a mentor and coach, I got a mentor and coach this year too, which has been a game changer. And one of the things she and I worked on together, which I was then able to work with the teachers to benefit with the students, is in the past we did a lot of kind of broader goals, school-wide classroom goals, but this year we sat down and took every single individual student in Myrtle Creek and made a goal for them, a midterm goal, a check-in goal, and then an end of the year goal. So we get to meet again in January to see where we are based on the goal that we had set earlier this year. And then we review them formally every 6 weeks, but then we look at them every time we have a PLC. So like today, we got to bring those out, look at it, and plan. And that's been really great, which leads into our monthly building PLCs. That's something we haven't always formally had, but we are up and running, and it's been very successful. And then goal 3 is to improve student attendance as always. The way I had written this goal was to focus on chronically absent students because we did have a high number of students who qualified as chronically absent last year. But what we did was kind of took this goal and looked at what we could do school-wide. So we are still focusing on those specific students who need different interventions. We've had a lot of family meetings as well as just some different empathy interviews, but with our attendance team, we are tracking student data, and then we kind of made a subcategory and did a family engagement because something that we found was a lot of our kids and families didn't feel the connection from home to school. So we really sat down and we've done, I think, already 3 family nights. My office and some of my teachers sat down. We all called volunteers to get families in. And we got feedback that just the reaching out has helped them feel so welcomed and they want to be at school. They actually feel like they're missing out when they're not here because they're making those connections. Incentives, we decided that one thing we struggle with, which isn't an attendance number, but is tardiness. And our rating blocks are right off the bell. So one of the things we wanted to focus was getting kids here on time. So every day at 9:05, we do a school-wide pledge on the intercom with a connection, and then we pull 2 kids at random to get their here on time prize. And that is the talk of Myrtle Creek right now, if you come over. So yeah, those are my 2 goals. Oh, yes. What are we proud of? Student and parent connections. I think that's continuing to grow. Staff culture, I will say over and over again, no matter who I'm in front of, I have the best staff, and I have just, they help each other. There's a bond because they are this new cool, like they meet every morning for breakfast and then they do study groups after school. So it's just, they just have a different bond, I feel like, than we've had in the past. Our PBIS, we have lots of staff committees this year. Student growth, the parent group partnership, we have a new president within the last year, and her and I worked together quite a bit to try to get parents to campus and get them engaged, and then again, family engagement opportunities. So we are growing.
Ariel, will you remind me what PBIS is?
Yes, it is positive behavior.
Okay.
So it's interventions supporting positive behavior.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
So who are the school coaches? You mentioned the coaches. Are they independent or?
Well, there's 2. We have district coaches, which is Lynn and Alice. And then the 4 coaches that we are working with are from the ESD. So they are coaches who've been in various schools in Douglas County. And like when I have a special ed teacher, I have one who focuses on social emotional. I have a K2 and a 3-5, so it's kind of blended. And when we met with them, I kind of gave them the rundown of what Myrtle Creek, what our needs were, and what my goals were out of the partnership with them. And that was with Kate, and I think Lynn was there with us. And then we scheduled a day where they came back and they just went into the classrooms and just kind of got to meet everyone. We did a meet and greet, and then that was without me. They did it so they could form a connection, and they based who they were going to coach kind of based on personality and strengths. So, and it has, every single one of them have been, but at first I was like, really, you're gonna do a full day of walkthrough? And I see it now because the personality matchup is perfect.
And you said every week, are they like one day a week, each of them in the building, or several days a week? Or?
They make their schedule with the teachers, but I have a coach in my building every day. Not always the same one.
Right.
But like today, Carrie was there. Tomorrow, I have a meeting with Allison, and she's doing something. Bob's there tomorrow. So yeah, they're always there, and then they reach out to me if they or the teacher wants to do something. But about once a month, I have a meeting with them and just saying, what are the trends? What supports are you hearing? But they don't talk to me about anything confidential. So there's that bond there. And I don't know if the teachers believe that wholeheartedly, but they don't talk to me about anything evaluation wise. But it's a good lens, and it's been really good for the school. And so sometimes it's kind of like a parent. I can tell them something, but when they hear it from somebody else, more appealing.
Good. Any other questions?
So I had a quick one. So you didn't have this resource available earlier, or it sounds like this is new?
To be honest, I don't know if it was available or not. I'm not as familiar with the ESD services. Every new teacher gets a mentor through our district anyways. Every one of my teachers has had a mentor, and it's usually someone in the building or the district. What we were finding at Myrtle Creek is I only have 2 teachers who've taught longer than 3 years. So I couldn't even use a lot of my teachers to be a mentor. And so, because to be a mentor, you have to teach for 3 years or longer. And some of my teachers who are in the 4 year, I didn't want to ask them, hey, now that you're finally into year 4, do you want to be a mentor? So we decided to reach out, and it's been really good. And they've been able to dedicate a lot more time than an in-source, someone who's already teaching and then trying to do that on top of it. A lot.
At our district instructional coaches since 2020. We started with 1, and then we started with 1 coach, and that was Alice, focusing on that. And then we added Lynn Ralph last year. Her focus is on literacy. So we do have 2 district coaches, but that's 2 people spread pretty thin. So we have a building behind me. Nice to be able to tap into another resource.
And Lynn and Alice are there all the time too. Lynn helps us weekly with ECRI, and Alice has been helping us a lot with moving into smarter balance and different things with math. So they're still there too, every Thursday.
And so from a fiscal perspective, in the past, and I think this is how we're still doing it, we kind of pick and choose what services we want for our money with the ESD. Is that correct, Erica? And then is this one of those services that we're getting for that money we're paying, or are we paying extra?
We're paying extra for this,
Okay.
and Kate found some magic money in the LeBar's grant fund account. It has not magic money.
I was gonna ask you to look for me too, so.
She thought we were using grant funds to pay for it. It was such a much lower cost than it would be if we had hired somebody.
Okay.
The other is disadvantage to hiring someone that meant we would have had to take someone out of the classroom, which we're not in a great position to do, because to be able to really provide the level of coaching that's needed, it's really challenging to do. And you're also trying to teach all day. Just doesn't work very well.
So it's special to them too, because this isn't someone they've taught with.
Right.
So there's a whole different relationship that's formed when it's not like my peer is all of a sudden my supervisor. It's been really good having an outsider come in.
Yeah, it seems like that
opinion.
level of neutrality would be helpful.
And is this the only school or the only building where we have these outside mentors at this point, at least?
From there are mentors available through the ESD for all of our schools, but not to this extent.
Okay.
And Myrtle Creek was in a unique position because of they're in target status is what it's called, and so we knew that we needed to put some additional resources and support there. So it is not currently in our
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very much.
Thanks,
We won't be offended if you leave.
I'll stay for a minute.
Okay, good stuff. Thank you very much. Moving on to our communications and our superintendent's report.
All right. So a couple of things, an update on our strategic planning process. It continues to go really well. Gail was here November 19th and 20th, and in this visit, she had another meeting with the steering committee. She met with our lead team again and introduced a strategy called Rounding that we're going to be utilizing on the lead team. But the primary reason of her visit was to gather information from staff to bring to the steering committee. So she went to each site and was available for folks to kind of drop in and share their input. Her timing was a little bit challenging because, of course, teachers teach during the day, so they couldn't all get there. Instructional assistant, same. So she's returning on January 6th, which is an in-service day. She'll be here in the morning. And again, there'll be a set schedule for folks to go and share information, because obviously the information that we gather from our educators is going to be critical as we put the plan together. We are on track to share the plan with the board in our February meeting. So she will be here for that February meeting to present all of the information she found and the draft plan for your all's consideration. So I'm excited about that. The IRRE, I continue to forget what that stands for, but the survey that we are using with our students, teachers, instructional assistants, and families, really good participation, which is really fabulous. As of this morning, we had 236 families that had completed the survey. So we're going to continue to push that. And we got a number of folks to fill it out during conferences, which was fantastic.
Hopefully we got via text or email.
Yeah.
Mine.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you.
For both my kids.
Yeah, thank you. Because it's so critical, and especially this year, because we really are, this is the primary way that we're gathering information from our families.
Is this just once a year?
Yes, it is just a once-a-year survey, and this is the first year we've done the family version of the survey. In years past, we've only done student and staff. So we're excited to see what that feedback looks like and how it can help us get better. The student response rate, my goal was to have every school up to 80%, and we're almost there. The high school, it went from 40 to 72 in the last 2 days. So I'm confident that by the end of this week, they're going to get there, and then every school will be at 80% or above, and then we can really utilize that data.
Great.
So my older son in the high school, yesterday I got a Power School notification that he was late to class. And then a little later I got a notification that he was there. And I said, hey buddy, where were you during 6th period? And he said, well, I put my bag down in class and then I got up to go to the bathroom. And then they called me to the office to do my survey. And so I said, okay, all right, if that's where you were.
That's an excusable reason.
Yeah.
I didn't pass on that one. Yeah, I guess they have a little office competition going about who can get the most kids.
Oh, nice.
So
Good.
I'm guessing that your son said they were so this information will be super useful, and of course we will share it out once we have it, but I am thrilled with the participation so far. And that will close at the end of this week. We have a lot of work to do, and so as such, we have some committees that we have gotten up and running. So the first is the attendance committee. As you know, that is a huge focus for our district this year. That's one of my goals as superintendent, and a significant area of need. Emily facilitated the first attendance committee meeting this past week, and it was a really great start. We took a look at data, took a look at the plan that the lead team had put together, and we're excited to continue that work. There's a state requirement that every district have an equity, diversity, and inclusion committee. And this district has had it in the past, and then it's kind of come and gone, and COVID and all the things. And last year there were some real scheduling challenges, and so I sent out an invitation to get kind of our staff portion of that committee in place, and was really encouraged by the interest and the number of folks who wanted to participate. So that's really exciting. We're starting with just a staff committee with a few community folks from the tribe are going to participate, and then there is someone from the ESD that also is a specialist in this area, and so she's going to do some help in getting the committee up and going with a couple of goals. The first one is to make sure that we are using an equity lens when making our decisions, and that we're fostering a sense of belonging in all of our schools. That's the first piece. The second piece is we also have to meet the state requirement to have this committee with all of the required membership by the fall. And so in August, this committee will have to look a little bit different. So I'm starting with the staff committee to kind of get things up and going and build our own internal understanding. And then we will be but making it compliant with the state requirements around the committee. The other piece that's a little bit tricky about this, I'm facilitating it for now, but it's meant to be an advisory committee to the superintendent and to the board. So this is a committee that should be making recommendations to us. And so next year, likely someone else will be facilitating. I'll still sit on the committee, but I won't be facilitating the committee so that it can be a true advisory body as it's intended to be. So I'll keep you posted on that. Our first meeting is scheduled for January, and we'll be meeting monthly for the rest of the year. And then there's a typo in here, and I'm so sorry. The response to intervention reboot is facilitated by Kate. I think it might have said Emily in your packet, which may look like Emily was facilitating every single committee on this team, which is not accurate. So Kate is facilitating the response to intervention reboot, and that is really just, there was some really important and well done work done several years back when we had an RTI TOSA, and there was a lot of focus on making sure that, and that stands for response to intervention. So really having a way to make sure that students are getting the intervention that they need, and that we're aligning intervention to need, and that there's a clear process to review all of the data and make sure that no students are not being carefully looked at and celebrated for their strengths, and also that we're filling in gaps that they need. And it just had laid dormant for a while. So it's still happening in our schools, but it's just time for an update and a bit of a reboot, make sure that our materials are all up to date, that our data decision points are all in alignment with what makes sense now, and that we're making sure that we're getting services for the kids who need them. So that committee started working together.
We started early in the fall.
Yeah.
But the implementation of ECRI has been first and foremost, but we meet about every month.
So excited to see that work moving forward. And then we have 2 evaluation committees. So the classified evaluation system was in need of an update. And so Tabitha and Emily have really spearheaded the effort there, working with a committee of folks that includes classified leadership to make sure that they have an evaluation system that's really focused on growth and improvement and that cycle, so that we can be giving folks good feedback. And then similarly, we are looking at a licensed evaluation committee. That process also needs some updating. That was some clear feedback I got when I came in and just in reviewing the materials. And so that committee will be starting January. And we have that committee seated. I think we just need some of the teachers. Yes. And we are going to be working with someone named Marsha Moyer, who is a well-known state expert in this area, and she's going to help guide us and make sure that we're on the right track, and also help us with some of the heavy lift of redoing the licensed evaluation process. So,
And who is she?
She's an independent contractor,
Okay.
but she was the HR director for for the Salem School District for quite a long time. She does a ton of work for OSBA and consults with districts all over the state. She also does a lot of training for administrators around providing high quality feedback. And so she's wonderful to work with.
And she's going to be helping with the classified and the license?
No, just the license.
Just the license.
Mhm. Yeah, just the license. Yeah.
Good.
I've been busy. I just listed these things. I don't think there's anything that jumps out too much. I've been doing the connecting through conversation trainings in our elementary and middle school sites, which has been super fun for me. I met individually with each teacher that we hired this year to just hear how the transition has been, how we did with orientation, what kind of ideas they're noticing. Sometimes fresh eyes can be really, really helpful. So those have been really insightful and also just really exciting. Like, we hired a phenomenal group of teachers, and so it's really fun to get to know them and see them in action, and want to do everything we can to make sure that they have the support so that they teach for a really long time. So I'm filtering all of that data right now to see if there's any action steps for us to take. Spending time in classrooms as always, which is my favorite thing to do. We just finished up parent-teacher conferences. We had, from the schools I've heard back from so far, we had some great turnout at some of our sites, and it looked different at elementary, middle, and high, the format, but overall, it seems like it was really successful. Thanksgiving activities, there was a wonderful event at the high school where they had a big feast with everybody, and that was really, really fun and well received, and I've been attending all the things. The only other announcement is that Tabitha and I are both following along in this board meeting on BoardBook, which is, I don't even know how to define it. It's an electronic management system for everything that you're looking at here. So instead of getting an emailed out packet, it would all just be in this BoardBook. And that also allows us to just post a link for the public so that the public can see all of the public documents that we need to have posted. The minutes would be right there. And I think we can kind of record it at some point. So, yeah. So it really, I've used it in other places, and I think this decision was made before I was here, but it's exciting to transition to it. Yeah. Yeah. So exciting. So in January, you'll have the opportunity. You will be getting a link, and this is the most critical part. You'll be getting a link in your email from BoardBook. It will say from BoardBook. Please don't delete it. It might look like one of those, spammy sort of emails. And you're going to want to click on the link and get yourself logged in, set up your password, do all of those things so that when you come to the January meeting, it will be seamless and easy. Yeah, please.
So I've tried it on one of these tablets. So my plan is that when you get your login and password, everything should just be saved. So you can click on it and then run through it. So you won't have to remember it every time.
Okay.
Or you can tell me, I'll remember it for you. But I've already tried it on one and it saves everything. So it's pretty easy so far.
That is my report.
You're advancing technologically at the board level.
Yes, look
So,
good.
yeah, I was on just how technology's going. I was on a Zoom call with, there was 6 people of us all across the country on a Zoom call, and there's this one little box, looked like a 7th person, and it didn't have anything there, and it just was there the whole time, and at the end I said, who was that 7th person? Well, it was AI, and they listened to the entire Zoom call, they recorded everything, they typed out all the notes, and then in this circumstance, different department heads were supposed to get different parts of the notes. And so the company we were working with in this, automatically it sends out to all the department heads and gives them their tasks of what they have to do for what we were on the call for. And it just crazy. I mean, yeah, so it's going faster than we can keep up with, really. So, great.
Hey, Eric, I got one question.
Of course.
On the committees, there's some of them obviously that are, I'll say, more like staff and community kind of
Yeah.
committees. Do we get students involved in any of them, like the attendance committee? Do we get like high school kids involved in that?
Great question. We do not have any students on the attendance committee, but that would be a really interesting thing to do. Love that idea. We will have students on the equity, diversity, and inclusion committee starting next year. But we definitely want to get their input on attendance. So yeah, that's a really interesting thing as well. Yeah.
Hasn't there in the past been a student kind of liaison for the school board as well?
Certain times. there have
Okay.
been, Yeah.
What is that student called? Isn't there a name, a title for it?
I can't remember exactly what we call it, but it was like a student board rep or a
Okay.
board representative.
Okay,
Or,
yeah.
but yeah, it was a few years we did it. There were some years there wasn't interest
Mhm.
in.
Yeah.
Imagine that.
Mhm.
And then we've not picked it up sometimes.
Okay.
I don't think we should have. Go ahead.
Carry on to
Yeah, go
enrollment.
ahead and keep on going there.
So, our enrollment is holding pretty steady. It has gone down. It's 1410, but its rate of decline is slightly less than what we are used to seeing. So it's not great news, but it's not awful news. And so that is something that we continue to keep a really close eye on. Really trying to dig in and understand where our students are. I think we have a number of students that live within our boundaries that are homeschooling or are chosen online charter school or and some who transferred to other districts. I think the biggest number though are the homeschool and the online. And so that's something that we're really just kind of starting to look at and try and understand better. Because I think that's the only way we could really influence enrollment is if we can recapture some of the students that are here that are not in school. And to do that, we have to offer something that makes us a destination district, a place that people really want to go and really want to be. So for students who have chosen online, it's not enough to just offer an online program. It has to be a better online program than the charter schools that that's all they do. And so we have to think about that. We have to think about, is there a way to recapture some of our homeschool families even? There are programs out there that are just kind of part-time programs to engage families in elective classes or in small ways, and then that oftentimes will build and bring them in to more full-time enrollment. So those are things we're just starting to dig into and understand. So we're just starting to get access to some of the data around where folks are going and where they are. So we'll continue to watch that and continue to be paying really close attention. We did make an adjustment to our, we did give an updated enrollment to the state so that they could adjust our budget number, and we are, that we're getting paid for the proper number of students.
So are we gonna go over this information at a later date,
Where people are?
Yeah.
Yeah, so yes, my intention is to be able to gather all of that information and share it. And typically there's what I've done in the past is there's been kind of an annual report. These are where all of our students have gone, this is kind of the exit, and we want most of those students to be gone because they've graduated. And these are all of the students that have come and where they came from. And then for students who have left for any reason beyond graduation, where they've gone and the best we can do there. What we are trying to figure out right now is how to gather that data the most efficiently possible. So a lot of that information lives with our phenomenal office managers. And so how do we capture that knowledge base in a more systematic way so we can really analyze it? We just were able to almost make a breakthrough with our transfer portal system so we can really understand some reports there about where the students are transferring in and out. So we're going to start digging into that. So the answer is yes. I don't have all of the data yet. So it's going to be well, if I'm going to be able to present it, but that is something that I'm intending to do.
So the surveys that we send out, do they have any kind of information, or are we gathering information to that as well?
Those surveys only go to folks who are
Or
enrolled. Yeah, so, something that we can think about, and might be really helpful, this is something I have done, is we know who these kids are.
Right.
And sometimes you just have to pick up the phone and find out why, and if there's anything that would entice them back into our system. And people have all kinds of good reasons.
Right.
I think there's a number of families that have chosen homeschooling because they want to be able to do things that they can only do in that environment. And that totally makes sense, and we're not trying to talk anyone out of that. And if they've left for a reason that is more like, they were mad at the school, or they, there's some barriers to getting to school, or whatever those pieces are, those are the families we want to engage and see if we can figure out how to bring them in. Yeah. And then if they have chosen online school, that's another piece where I would like to understand, because for some families that just works really well, like they want that level of flexibility. So if that's the case, what is something we could do? Is there a local school district that could provide what they're getting from that, plus something extra? Like, I don't want to have a program that is just, because that's all these charter schools do. So they do it very, very well. And I don't want to try and replicate something that already exists. Our specialty is brick and mortar. So if we're going to do something different, we would just have to be really thoughtful about that. So those are the questions I have. I don't have a ton of answers yet, but it's really going to take like a phone banking situation where we're really just calling folks and asking questions.
Is there a possibility for like a hybrid to where they can homeschool but also do like electives and sports and still be considered part of our program, like a hybrid kind of?
Yeah, you can. I'm assuming this is the same here, but you can enroll up to a certain number of classes and still be homeschooled at the high school level. You can take electives and certain things along those lines. So there are hybrid options, and we encourage that because we do want to bring folks in, and also, it's a great opportunity for the kids in our community to engage in things. It's hard when you're homeschooling to find those. To find ways to socialize and meet people and all of those things. And so it's a good opportunity for them that way too. So yes, and I would like to have something a little bit more robust and systematic that looks like that.
Children at the earlier level can engage as well, correct? Like they can come in for band or PE or something like that. Is that accurate or no?
Yeah.
Yeah, we actually have it in policy, and we do have some families that take advantage of that.
Okay.
Where they'll have their student come in for a PE class or to participate.
And athletics as well.
Or, and they're always.
Yeah. Because for a very short time post-COVID, and we're talking weeks, my kids and I did homeschool for a short time, and I did know that we were able to access some of those extracurricular activities. But there were a lot of people that I spoke to that didn't realize that was something that they could access. So maybe getting that information out, that some of those, elective classes and stuff could be a way to engage them if they don't even realize that that's a resource.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah, because I believe once we get folks in the door, we can grow that. And once we have a connection, then we can foster that. So yeah, that's a really good point.
And if you know students leaving, do we do like an exit interview at all with them, or try to get them and talk to them just to, or the parents or somebody to try to understand if they're leaving for work or whatever it is, or if they're leaving because they're unhappy?
Right. So most often, like I said, the office manager knows. And we do know that most of the time. And I don't know that we have a systematic way to gather and collect that information. So yes, I think those questions are asked. There are times that I think folks leave without that. And so we're wanting about what are some kind of safety nets or safeguards to make sure that we do have a touch point with every family before when they're leaving, so that we understand, some folks are moving to Kansas, that's not gonna work for them to stay here, so knowing that is just really helpful.
Our student information system has a limited number of codes that the offices can use. So if a family says, oh, we're moving, there's a code they can put in for that. Or I can't remember what they are off the top of my head, but it doesn't explain every circumstance, but it can sometimes give us an idea in general of the trends.
And it's down against the whole state. It's not just our district.
Oh, is that right?
Specific, yeah. Is there a comment place where you can put in a comment or no? Just a code.
I'm not sure.
Because it's so important, I mean, for us to get the funds, you'd think there'd be more information available.
Yeah,
You know?
and I know there is a way to do it, but you have to add it, and you also have to have kind of a procedure to make sure everyone's using it the same way. So that's definitely something we're thinking about.
And as far as the funding goes, do they need to be full-time, or what percentage of their day, if it's
Great
here,
question.
like electives and PE,
Are they considered?
school, or where would we get some funding
I
for
don't,
that?
I'm gonna be honest, I don't know the
Okay.
percentage. I would think that one elective class would give us.
Right.
It's very fractional.
Yeah, and I'm not saying we don't still have them come, because
Yeah.
getting them in the door is half,
Yeah,
Right,
for sure,
yeah.
that battle. But,
and there is a fractional amount, you do get a fractional amount, maybe if they're enrolled in something, but
Okay.
it's nominal.
Okay.
It's not.
Well, my experience, a lot of homeschools usually there's more than one student homeschool.
Yeah.
Usually it's bigger family.
Yeah.
So.
That's private schools too.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what I was gonna say, is I think we've got a bigger chunk that has steered towards some of the private schools in the county too,
They
as
went
well.
during COVID and they
Yeah,
come back.
yeah, so, and they found a home and they're happy there and all that stuff, and so it's hard to bring
Right.
those back. And, yeah,
Yeah, and I want families to make choices that are right for them.
Sure,
Yeah, like,
sure.
I don't want to talk anyone into anything.
absolutely.
And I want to make sure that we have the best possible service to offer, and that everyone knows what those things are. So that we can draw the folks in for whom it makes sense.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Demographics. Yeah, we'll just keep going.
Yeah, let's do it.
So I actually have a little bit of a PowerPoint up there. Maybe a little click through. Okay, I'm gonna have to go there, 'cause there's no way I can see that. Okay, and I think the rest of the slides are gonna be visible.
We'll just believe you, whatever you say is what you say is on there.
We're just gonna believe it, right? So this is just the overall, and then, so we're gonna go into each of these on their own slide where you can read it, but know that in your packet, there's a slide with all of the information in one place. So these are racial demographics. So this big band here would be white students, Hispanic students, Native American and Alaskan Native, multiracial, and then we have a very small sliver of Pacific Islander, and what are the other ones? Asian is the other super small one. Okay, if you take us to the next one, we have numbers. Okay, so for racial groups, these are the actual numbers of students. So we have 11% of our population are Hispanic. That's 149 students in our district. 78% are white, which is 1,106. We have less than 1% of our students are Black or African American. That's 9 students. We have 6 students who are Asian. Again, that's less than 1%. 3 students who are Pacific Island students, and that's again less than 1%. And then we have 110 students who identify as multiracial, and 28 students who are identified as Native American Alaskan Native students, so 2%.
Foster care, we have current students in foster care, we have 8. It's important to note though that there are 88 students who are considered ever foster care students. So those are students who've been in the foster care system as they've gone through school. So 88 of our students have been in foster care at some point as they've been in our schools. We have 203 students in special education. That's 14% of our students overall. That is just under the state average right now is 14.9%. So it's just under that. And so it's pretty typical in terms of, you know, what we see in the state. It's important to note that the state funds special education students at a 1.5 weight, the double weighted ADM, but only up to 11%. So we are above that, and also so is everyone in the state. So that's just something to note. We have 94 students who are considered houseless or McKinney-Vento eligible. That's 7% of our students. So that's a significant number of students. I know Emily talked about that in her report. English language learners, we have 5 students, 3 students at Canyonville, 1 student at Tri-City, and 1 student at South Umpqua High School, and we have 3 languages spoken. And that's all there is for demographics. Any questions from the group?
That houseless one, I was kind of surprised when I first.
Staggering number. And it's that, those are students who are McKinney-Vento eligible. And so you can be considered in that category if you don't have stable or adequate housing. So this could be folks doubled up, you know, when you have a lot of families kind of sleeping on the couch surfing. This can be high school students who have left home for whatever reason. This includes folks who are maybe staying in a trailer that doesn't have plumbing or electrical, those kinds of things. So it's a broad range. It's an alarmingly high number. Yeah, I was surprised by that number as well. Okay.
I'm assuming within the school we have resources that we can get the families in touch with and all that.
We have some, we have some folks who provide extra resources to them. And there's some special protections to make sure that they're getting their needs met.
We even got a van this year.
Oh, did we?
One of our grants that was expiring, yeah, it's the van right out here.
Yeah.
And then they're able to use it. So that was a really awesome thing that
Yeah.
we were doing this year.
Okay.
Just keep rolling.
Good.
Yeah, okay, so the local wellness policy, first reading, the only change was that we struck the language about having a wellness committee, because we have not found that to be a necessary thing to have. But nothing else has changed in the policy.
And Bill, I don't know if we've talked about this, but all policies are, we do a first reading, kind of just for informational, and then between now and the next meeting, if you have any questions or anything like that, you can contact them, and then we vote or don't vote to adopt it for the changes. So, any other questions on that? Okay. What's that? Oh, there's another policy, the wellness policy, and the D1. Is it DI? Fiscal accounting? And are you, is anybody talking about that?
Yes.
There we go. I got it.
Trying to find one.
Yeah.
summary.
Okay, and a summary of the changes. So this is a new policy. This policy outlines the standards and practices for managing and reporting school district financial activities. It basically just puts more safeguards for us to be able to say you can't have more than $200 cash collected without common policy that we just decided we would do.
Have a good night.
Bye, Ariel. Thank you. Bye, Ariel. Babies to bed. Have a good night.
And is that a statute driven policy, or is that a policy we decided to do as a district?
We just decided to do it.
Okay. If I remember right, some of our audits, that has been one of our downfalls in the past, at least, that some of our offices have kept too much cash or not deposited as much as they should, and that sort of thing. So
Before my
See,
time.
I did
No,
listen.
I believe you.
I
believe
did
you.
listen to some of those audit reports. So
But yeah, no, it's just only for good.
Okay.
You know, the less cash we have on hand, the
Yeah.
faster it is to the bank,
Sure.
the safer it is, and we just need to have a policy to be able to reference back to it and say, all of this, please.
okay, great.
So,
Okay. Any questions on policies, first readings?
It wasn't on there.
Okay, 4.2, we already heard from Ariel. And so, did you have anything else?
No, I don't.
Okay,
Thank
okay.
you.
4.3, now we're going to Shy in our fiscal report.
Okay. Well, first off, did you guys see that the governor came out with her proposed budget? We'll start with the good news
Did not?
before we get into talking about the reduction in estimates of membership and things. 11.36 billion is what they came to the table with. To give you guys perspective, 10.2 was what we did the last biennium. So 11% increase, something we celebrated. Really, really excited about it. So what that means for us next year is, we're gonna get a bigger piece of the pie, which is great. I don't know what that amount is. But it is, really a step in the right direction. And I know that COSA and lots of organizations really fought hard for education to be at the forefront. And so this is a win. So last 2 years, last biennium was a win. They came out with 9.9, which is what we built our budget off of because we weren't sure if we were going to get the 10.2. And so that was a win, and this is even a bigger win. So, yay.
Yeah, COSA lobbied really hard to change the way that they do the state school formula in a number of significant ways so that we could have a more accurate description of the cost increases over time. Significant in this one was true to PERS, like the increase, actually adding the amount that increased in PERS into this budget. They also changed, it was budgeted on a 51-40 or like a 50-50, even though we're on a 51-49, and so they changed that. And that formula is the formula that they will be using from here forward. So that is a huge win for us today and into the future. So very excited.
Yes, it's very exciting.
It's also I just can't help but say it, is that we got a huge jump because a lot of districts are not in great shape right now in our state.
Yeah.
And Portland, they're hurting really bad. And so I'm pretty sure they lobbied all these bigger districts that are not in great shape, lobbied really hard to get that.
Yeah.
And fortunately, it's an equal formula that is per student. Us being in the shape we are and keeping us fiscally sound over this last several years, kudos to you guys and everybody involved in that. But it just gives us that much more. And yes, we have a little bit of decline in our enrollment that is concerning, but we're going to gain from their financial situation not being as healthy as it needs to be. And so it's awesome. It really is. So
Really good.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry.
No, please, no, I was saving it for you. You never get to share the great news.
Okay. So, you guys have the financial report. Going through here, not a lot of big changes. We are projected to end with $3,731,786, as you can see down here, highlighted. I will let you know that, as Erica mentioned, we did update the estimate of membership and revenues. And so we will see a change next month when I bring you guys the financial report. You'll see, I mentioned it before, but there was an 87,000 over here is where we came out with the first time that they projected what our state school fund would be, and then they came out again and again and again, and this is where it landed. And so we will get a reduction in our state school fund, and so this number will be a little bit higher next month, which of course is going to reduce our ending fund balance. But again, like Jess said, we're in a really, healthy state, so we can do that. And the reason that we want to make sure we don't want to be being overpaid for students that we don't have, because what's going to happen is we're just going to owe it. And so the sooner that we can insure it up and get a more accurate number, the better. And so that's what we've done. We've done it halfway into the year, so the impact is not going to be as great, which is, really, really good on our part. But just so you know, I went through and Eric and I worked together. Erica came up with, projected students, and I looked at transportation numbers and what our taxes were. I know our audit's not final yet, but I looked at that, and then I went through and basically reprojected what I think it was going to be for this year, not just like what I did in the budget. And so I was able to go through. The good news is I just updated 2 things. So we estimated when we first did this, and again, I'm going to do this in January again for the next year. So you start this projection really early on in the year, so it's kind of challenging. But Paul estimated 1431 for our student count at that time, and now we changed it to 1413. And so that is going to decrease our state school fund amount, obviously. And then the transportation grant, I estimated it a little bit higher than I should have. The reason for that is that our first student contract, we signed a new contract, and last year it was a 14.75 increase in the first year. Yeah, wow, it hurt. And so for me, it was really hard for us to estimate where we would put that. It was such a big increase. Not what it was used to be in the past was 5%, 2%. That was a really big one. So going forward is a 5-year contract. Going forward is 5%, basically between 5 or 8% or where CPI lands. So our transportation costs going forward are going to, increase less, but because we have that jump last year, anyways, we shored it up, and I went ahead and increased it by 5% based off what we did at last audit. So I think we're in a good spot. I think when they come back out with our new projection, it's going to be more, it's going to represent us better. And it's going to, like I said, it's going to decrease our ending fund balance a little bit, but we're not going to be worried that we're going to owe or anything like that. So, and then if enrollment goes up, we'll be in a good spot. But, think positive, but I think this is the best way to protect us. Does anybody have, yeah, go ahead.
Utilities, has that gone up? I know that's, they're kind of different areas, businesses. I know they're charging a lot more like propane now, natural gas is a lot more, things like that.
Yeah, utilities do go up every single year, but this year we did see a bigger increase than we have in the years past. And actually what I do during budget, and I'll start doing that, is I straight up just call them. I'll call the garbage department, I'll call Tri-City Water, I'll ask them what, because they're creating their budgets as well at the same time. And I'll ask them what percentage they're going to apply. But yeah, definitely it did go up. Everything has gone up across the board.
Yeah. All right, any other questions? Okay.
Okay, so nobody's mouth is going to drop when I come back next month with a number, right?
No promises.
Wait.
If I'm estimating that, so you said approximately 18 is what you adjusted it. If I'm just throwing a number, it's probably a couple $100,000 difference.
Yes,
Okay.
I would never tell you exactly what I thought it would
No,
be.
yeah,
Yes,
but it's somewhere in that ballpark.
Yes. in.
Let's keep
If
it to.
another school district has more students or less students, they're moving up high. Our
Yeah.
slice of the pie changes so much,
Sure.
it's very hard.
Okay. All right. Anything else? All right, I have a note here on 4.4 says Joe does not have anything to present. So I understand that to mean I understand that to mean he didn't do anything. So I'll make you say yes or no if you don't want to, but we're glad you're here to join us, Joe. Okay, Kate, you're up. You do have something, so you actually can do something this month. So okay.
In between, Joe distracted
There's nothing to do.
Well, Erica kicked us off very well with just the overview of our demographics, because all of the data I'm going to share with you tonight is what we consider disaggregated data, meaning it breaks it down by each of those student groups. And we chose to do this. This is a look back to last year, the state testing that all of our students took. And so you're looking at the 23-24 data, which was just released. And the data that you see here will be shown on our school and our district report cards that are published by the state as well. But I tried to compile it in a way that just made sense so that you all have a preview of what that's going to be. So I'm going to both run the keyboard and try and talk. So just a few notes before we jump in. I have broken this down school by school, and each school you're going to see English language arts, and you're going to see math, and you're going to see regular attenders. We are looking at achievement data only in the slides that I'm going to show you. There is another measurement of growth of students, which actually within our schools, we pay a lot of attention to growth, because sometimes a student can grow a year's worth or a year and a half worth, but it may not show in the achievement data because they have to reach a certain threshold. But that doesn't mean that they're not making great strides. So we're looking at achievement only. And again, we test students in grades 3 through 8 and 11. Parents may opt out. That is still in the state law, that parents have the right to opt their student out of state testing, but just know that when that happens, it does impact our participation rates, and it impacts overall how our district is viewed, or a school or a district is viewed as performing. So the data that you're going to see is presented in percentages of the students who take the test. And we'll talk a little bit more about that when we get into it. And each piece of data is assigned a level 1 through 4. And that level is determined based on a 3-year average of the data. So the denominator changes year by year by year, and then they average that. So it's a little tricky to see. The levels that there are 4 different levels, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Level 3 is considered being at standard, and level 4 is considered being above standard for college and career readiness. So we're going to start with Myrtle Creek Elementary School. Again, this is last year's data. It always takes them a good year to get it to us here. And the demographics are broken down on the left-hand side. Those are all of the reporting categories that the state gives us. If you do not see data in there, or it says it's not rated, it's because we did not have enough students of that particular student group to create data. Sometimes you'll see an asterisk in there, and that's because we may have some students in that student group, but there are not enough of them for the state to produce data without making individual students recognizable. And so we would never want, if you show the data for one student who happens to be in a student group, we all know who that student is, so we can't do that. So there is a threshold. So in Myrtle Creek, their English language arts achievement, that third column that has the red and the green, that was last year's data. And I've provided the 2 previous years so you can just see what that's looked like. Green indicates an increase over last year. Red indicates a decrease over last year. Some of our student groups may only have 10 kids. So the difference between one student passing a test can make a pretty significant difference in the data. The next slide is Myrtle Creek mathematics over the last 3 years. And I know you all have this, so I'm not going to go through it. We don't want to be here all night, so I won't go through it line by line, but I just want to make sure if you have any questions as we go through, you have the opportunity. And then this is Myrtle Creek regular attenders over the last 3 years. And then this is Tri-City Elementary School. This is their English language arts achievement. It's interesting, the state's long-term goal for both English language arts and mathematics is 80%. And you can see that we're not there yet. This is Tri-Cities mathematics. And so where you see red, like the students experiencing poverty, we did have a slight decrease from the year before, but if you look at where they were in 21, 22, they still are much higher than they were a couple of years ago, and they've been maintaining that. Same with the underserved race and ethnicity category at 28.6%. There is a slight decrease there, but there's still, we're still on that trend where they've elevated that over the last couple of years. And then this is the Tri-City regular attender data. Canyonville School, and this is Canyonville K-8. This is not broken down elementary to middle. This is their English language arts, their mathematics. And so what's interesting here, you see the two areas that are in red, the underserved race and ethnicity and the Hispanic Latino student groups. 2 years ago, those percentages were much higher, but the denominator, the number of students that were there was also much higher. And so I'll look it up. I actually wrote down the denominators for each of these because when I see something like that, I want to know. Is it because there's only 10 kids? And 2 years ago, there may have been 20, you know, what's making the difference there? And in some cases, there were pretty dramatic shifts in the denominator of student groups. And then this is Canyonville School's regular attenders. Now we're up into middle school. This is Coffinberry, their English language arts scores from last year. Mathematics scores from last year. And their regular attender data from last year. And then finally, the high school, English language arts. So if you look at 21, 22 compared to 23, 24, you notice a pretty significant difference. So we went from single digits to double digits last year, and we were holding double digits. 2 years ago, that 21, 22 year was the year that we had very, very low participation. We had, I would say the majority of our high school students opted out of the test. And either their parents opted them out, or if they were of age, they could opt themselves out. And so the high school worked really hard before the 22-23 school year to change that trend. They put incentives in place because we need their data. We need to know how they're performing. We need to know what changes we need to make within our system. So they put some incentives in place and did some other work around that, and they've been able to maintain a much higher level of participation. So our data is much better over the last 2 years.
Seems like they did a good job of making the alternative less appealing than taking the test itself.
I think you're
Which
right.
was smart.
I think you're right about that.
Yeah, I think they had a school test that they had actually.
We do, yeah.
Yeah, because we need the data one way or the other. We need the data one way or the other. So our options are we can provide a work sample type of assessment, or they can take the state assessment and we can use that data. Parents And families can opt out of the state assessment if they disagree with it for some reason, but you can't opt out of our local assessments. And if they pass, they get honors points. It's pretty awesome. This is their mathematics look. So there you see in 21-22, we were less than 5. I don't think that's an actual, I can't remember if that's a percentage or an actual number, but that less than 5 number, that's how few students were taking the test 2 years ago, so. And then their regular attender data. And that's what last year's assessment looked like. Any questions I can answer for you?
On the last slide, it looks like attendance 21-22 was high. What has caused, I mean, I'm surprised that it was higher right there coming out of COVID than it is right now.
I did not know.
Okay.
I really don't know. Great question.
A lot of those other slides were trending in the opposite direction where it was lower, 21-22 coming out of COVID. And even the ones that were in the red were still higher than what, they were during COVID, but this one seems to be opposite, so.
I'm not sure at all. I'd have to have a conversation with Carl and Ryan to see what trends they're noticing or if there's a particular reason for it, but I don't know off the top of my head.
The denominator could make a difference as well.
It's possible. I don't think, because the high school is our largest school, with the most number of kids, their denominator
Probably
stays
not
more
as
steady.
significant there.
And so the all-student denominator will stay very steady.
Okay, got it.
And usually where you see a big swing in a denominator is if you're looking at like our Asian student group, where we may only have a handful.
Some of those smaller
families
populations.
that have a small population.
Okay,
And if one family moves out of our neighborhood, then that can really get a big swing.
okay,
But the all-student group was fairly steady.
okay.
I'll ask them though. No, I'm curious too.
Okay.
And I'm trying to remember, I get on this a little bit probably every year, but the number of people or students that achieve it, is that percentage based on the total number of students in that grade? Or is it just the kids that took the test?
All of the students that grade level.
Okay, so this is just,
That's why if students opt out,
Yeah.
it impacts the number you see up there.
and it's been one of my frustrations for probably every year since I've been here, is the state allows them to opt out, but then penalizes the school if they don't take the test.
Yeah, and ironically, I don't have any data on this, but anecdotally, in talking to many of our principals over the years, there's also a lot of frustration in that and families have the right to opt out, but what happens if a third of your highest achieving students are the ones who opt out of the test? That can really swing your data. Yeah, that would be significant. And there's really no way we just do the best we can to engage them and
Does that seem to be a common issue though? Because I wouldn't imagine that the high achievers are going to be the ones opting out.
Oh, yeah,
They do.
they do.
they do.
They
Really?
do, because they don't need to take it.
Okay.
They already know it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that. A
Interesting.
lot.
Okay.
I don't know the percentages at all, but
I don't have any hard data on
I
it.
think there's
Of course, if they don't take the test, we can't prove it.
Sure. Yeah.
Well, it's like the SAT is not required now to get into colleges. And
Oh, well.
I think
made Kirsten still do it, even though she told me, why would I do it?
Yeah.
It's not required for me to get into Southern Oregon. And I said, because it's important that you do it. And we kind of argued about it. And Kirsten was one of those high achieving students. And it wasn't that she wanted to study for it or anything like that. She just saw it as unnecessary for her to get to the next step.
Yeah. That makes sense.
So opting out is always an issue. I think we've done some really good things to address that and help curb that, because we really do want to see our students. We want to see the great things that we do. so important. But we work with the things that are within our control.
And then what's the reason that they allow the opt-out? Is there any logical, I mean, I'm just not, maybe I'm missing it, but
Well,
you'd think the state would also, the district wants to, but you'd think the state would want as many participants as possible to find out how the whole state system is doing. And I know I'm repeating myself probably every year for the last 20 years, but it's just so frustrating.
They do. The state definitely wants folks to take the test. And they penalize districts when students don't. I think the struggle is that they also they don't want to do something that is going to be perceived as limiting parents' choice or ability to have some control over a situation like that. And there was in particular, when some of these high stakes tests were first in our realm, there was a large contingent of folks who really didn't think it was okay and didn't want their students to take it. And that was a significant group that lobbied hard at the state to get that included. It didn't used to be the case until we moved to Smarter Balance to the assessment system that we're using now. And so the way the state has kind of passed that political piece is to penalize districts. And so the districts have to do everything they can to encourage folks to take the test without taking away their right to opt out. So, and I mean, I had personal conversations with every single family that wanted to opt their students to the test when I was in my previous work. And the reasons were usually once I had a conversation with them, they would do it. Because it's that they don't understand the reason. Like, why would I do this? Like, they don't need to do it. When it was also, and it used to be required for graduation, which was very helpful in encouraging folks to take the test. So
As a district, can we implement that requirement?
so technically, yes, we could. And also you saw the percentage of kids who pass. So it would be a real challenge. When it was required for graduation, there were also a number of alternate assessments that folks could access, a number of other ways for students to show their proficiency. And so I wouldn't want to put something like that in place unless and until we had a pretty robust way for students to demonstrate that knowledge. Because it's a challenging, it's one way to demonstrate what students know. And it's really important and helpful data for us, but it is not necessarily the best way for every student to let us know what they know.
So if a student did not pass that at a proficient level, would that then prevent them from graduating?
That is what used to be the case. Yeah.
Okay, so it wasn't just that they had to take it for graduation.
No, they had to
pass
pass
at a
it, yes.
certain level.
Yeah.
Okay.
But like Erica said, there were alternative ways of demonstrating proficiency.
Right,
We had
right.
portfolios that we could also do. Yeah. So it wasn't an all or nothing.
Got it.
One thing I will just remind the board, and I know Jeff and I have this conversation every year, this is a summative assessment provided by the state. We don't even get the data from it until, this is last year's data, and we are just now getting it. So we don't use it to drive our instruction. We still rely on those internal assessments that we use. Some of the data I shared with you the last time are much more important to us internally as far as measuring our kids' growth, our students' growth, and giving us an idea of where they're at. And so that data is still, the reason this data is very important is because this is what goes to the public, right? The state publishes it.
That's what I was going to say.
And so anyone who looks at data for our district, they see the state data. They don't see our internal data. That data is not published. So it is public facing, which is why it gets a lot of attention. But as a teacher in a classroom, it really doesn't help me because I don't get it until the next year. And the next year, my kids are in the next grade level. And it helps us look at our systems, but not individual students.
It is, though, unfortunately, I have people come to me all the time and you can't say, don't believe that. you know, we're doing this, you know, oh, so I'm supposed to, and it's, I mean, it's honestly our public, it's also if families are trying to find out where they're gonna settle their family and go to school, they're gonna look at that data, because that's the data that's available to them. And so it's just an unfortunate system that is broken and doesn't give a true picture of what we're doing or how we're doing or where we're going even. And it's just, it just seems so common sense to me that I just can't believe that the leaders of our educational system in the entire state cannot see some of this common sense stuff. It is very frustrating.
I will say it gives us great information about our system overall, and we use that information, but day-to-day working with students and we also have other data.
All right,
Thank you all, appreciate the time.
Thank you. Any other questions at all? Okay, thank you, Kate. Foundation communication, we don't have a whole lot. We're reviewing grants, classroom grants right now. We've been emailing back and forth on that, and we'll be awarding those hopefully in a couple weeks. But that's really all we have as far as new foundation communication at this point. So we'll get those announcements out to all the teachers hopefully in the next couple weeks. So maybe actually within the week. We might be trying to do it by the end of this week. So with that consent agenda, we need a motion to approve our consent agenda.
I make the motion to approve consent agenda.
Dr. Anna's made the motion to approve.
I second.
Kellen has seconded. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed unanimously. New business 6.1. Board members, this is a resolution that we're going to pass. You've got it in your packet there. The resolution states all three of there's resolution 1, 2, and 3. We need to choose. So I'm thinking what we do is we make a motion to approve or make a motion
You'll want to.
to support each individual resolution. And then, does it have to be, is it a motion on that, or do we just decide kind of, and then we will approve the overall resolution that we're going to send to OSBA. So it'll be one document that.
That's like
That's what I submit. Each one.
Okay,
I did it one. Yeah, I apologize.
it's okay. Yeah. So, I say this just a lot of times the OSBA resolutions aren't terribly things maybe controversial or things that we're going to maybe talk about a little bit more. But I'm, at least for my own perspective, would like to open a little bit of conversation on a couple things. And so I think what we'll do, so do we need to approve this board members in block is the first thing we do? Is that?
We didn't have it on there. We didn't really have the information.
Okay. So we're not going to
Yeah.
do that at this point. So we're going to go to the resolutions themselves right now. And the first one is resolution 1 and amends the OSBA dues schedule. And you should have gotten a copy of that in an email from Tabitha. I don't know if it's in here too.
Yeah.
It's in your, I have it. Okay. So, that's okay. Okay, there we go. So, if I remember right, we haven't had any dues increases of the OSBA since 1998, 99, somewhere in that category. And so there's a dues schedule in here for our district this year. It looks like we're right about $2,500. And it looks like they're playing some catch up to get us with 20-some years, 25 years of no dues increases. So it's $2,500. Next year it goes to $2,800 and some. then $3,300, $3,800, about $500 a year. Up to 31 is going to be $5,200 for a district our size. And so
There's some big jumps.
there it is. And so I'll open it, for any statements, comments, questions.
I can start that one.
Absolutely, Bill.
I have no idea what the OSBA does for us. So what do they do for our district? And what is our return on investment on this? Because I know, doing some research after reading through this in 2021, we had 27 states dropped out of the National School Board Association because of things very similar to some of these things. So I guess that question is why is it other people are dropping out? So what are they bringing us? What are they bringing to the table? Why are we paying all this money and not just putting that money back into our district?
Great question.
And I don't know, go ahead, Erica.
OSBA provides a couple of things. So for one, they provide all of our policy guidance. So for every policy that we have, they send out a draft version of that policy, and then we can adjust it and adopt it to make sense, that they help us make sure that we're keeping up with the legislation and the legal changes within our policy. So I think that's probably the biggest thing we rely on them for. They also support things like superintendent searches, so they ran that search, the last couple searches, I would imagine. And then they also provide training and advice to boards and governance and those sorts of things.
Legal.
I would say legal,
advice,
there's
yeah.
legal advice as well there. And some of those stuff they provide for us, like the superintendent search, they provide it for us, but there is a fee, and it's a chunk of money. If you don't find somebody on the first search, then they'll redo it for you, again, for free and that sort of thing. And so there's lots of stuff like that. Some they charge you for. This is for that base operation, I guess you'd call it. And it's to employ all those people to be available to all the school districts for trainings, for searches and all that stuff. And so it's a hard one. It really is. And, I can understand why some school districts got out of national or whatever they did. I didn't even know that until you said that. But it's yeah.
We used them through our superintendent search
We
and so
did.
forth, didn't we?
We did. The
Yeah,
first
you paid
one.
for it, right?
What's
You
that?
paid for it separately.
Yes. Yeah, and it was around 25,000 the first time, was it?
10.
Oh, 10.
Yeah.
10 plus expenses or something
Yeah,
like that, or
travel.
and travel and all that. So, and then we weren't successful in finding someone, so they redo it for us for just expenses the second time. So, we were very successful the second time. So,
Then you won't need
So it was
long-
work.
Not a service you'll need for a while.
What part of the budget does school board expenses come out of? We have a board. Okay, there is a board budget.
Yep.
Okay.
And this is one of those, basically, it is what it is. Either we drop out of the state school board or we follow these, right? There's not like a negotiation in this or a discussion. It's either.
these are the proposed rates. One question I don't know if we vote no on it, I don't know that we necessarily get out of the fees. But if a majority of the boards vote no, the fees won't go up. This is a proposal to increase our fees. I don't know that we actually can get out of our dues that we do with the School Board Association, can we?
I mean, we could not participate, but that would be really challenging. for
I'd
us.
say
Yeah,
it's
the
something
board
we don't want to
policy.
do, right?
Yeah, I mean, you can certainly vote no, and then if the majority of districts voted no, then we're going to go into that. But I would also put them on my big category, but nothing would happen. Like a no vote doesn't impact what would happen
Right.
for us. Like, it's not like we're saying, no, we're not going to do it, so we wouldn't have to.
I don't know what it's been like in the last couple of years, but we use their legal services, their attorneys regularly because it's free of charge to us based on what we were paying. Whereas if we use our other attorneys that we have, we're paying by the hour and it got pretty expensive. So in the past, I would say we got every penny's worth just through legal services.
Yeah.
And I would say that the attorney for case was just emailing me, so that's how quickly I made contact. It saves a lot of money.
So how big a jump is for the next 5 years then?
From this year to 3031, which is about 6 to 7 year, 7 years, I guess, from one to the other. It's about I'd say 60% increase. But we've had zero increase for the last 25 years. And so I think this is part of their trying to catch up.
Yeah, I would say they're trying to get rich.
Yeah.
They're just
Right.
trying to survive, so they can support us.
What level are we?
We're 1,000 to 1999.
Okay.
District member 5, I guess. it
Okay,
says
yeah.
there. Yeah.
Mhm.
And as I think Erica stated before we started the meeting, our size of district really does benefit quite a bit from this type of service because we're not quite big enough to have all those full-time people as some of those bigger districts. They have their own people, their own lawyer, right, on site, all that stuff. And so we are getting pretty good bang for our buck, I would say.
I think if we approve it, was $300 an hour or something for
Yeah.
HR. Yeah, so.
Yeah, we're jumping $300 to $500 a year on here, it shows, right? Ballpark.
Right.
What's that much? Yeah, it's over the years it adds up.
Right. So,
I feel like that was beneficial because that gave me a lot better understanding of, our interaction with the USDA business. That's valuable.
okay. So with that, what we'll do is, you want a motion?
Just what?
Just on this one resolution,
Yeah, on
right?
this one, just a
So
different-
just on this one resolution, we'd need a motion either to approve resolution 1, which amends the OSBA dues schedule, or it would die for lack of a motion.
Maybe
Yeah.
so.
Or you can vote no once we do have a motion on the table. So,
I make the motion to approve resolution 2025-01.
I think it's just.
Amend the OSD dues schedule,
okay, so it's resolution 1
resolution 1.
of the 2025. Yes,
Oh, 1.
yes. So amends the OSBA due schedule. And that's a motion has been made by Dr. Anna. Is there a second?
I will second that.
Okay, Bill has seconded. Any other discussion? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed unanimously. Moving on to resolution 2. It creates the Oregon School Board Members Pride Caucus and designate a seat on the OSBA Board of Directors and Legislative Policy Committee. So I will just open it up for discussion. If anyone has anything.
And by pride, they mean like LGBT.
Yep, LGBTQ, yes. Yes.
I wrote down some comments on this.
Yes.
Can I read it?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Pretty simple. Regardless of what your personal views are on LGBTQ lifestyle, the change would open up the OSBA to petitions from any of the other special interest groups. So questions I guess I had is, these special interest groups are already represented at their local level by their elected board members, logistically at the state levels, as well as with memberships from all of Oregon school boards making up the OSB. Why would there be a need for resolution 2? Do we need a special seat at the table for Native American tribe members? What about the veterans, Christians, single parents, golfers, commercial fishermen, individual special needs, or any of the dozens of protected classes in Oregon? That list could be endless, I guess. So that was my thing that I wrote down. That is why, on the Pride Talks, I guess, why the special need for that, because it's a special interest group, which is a protected class, things like that, which is, we all support that, but I guess why do they need a special seat? Because already the school boards have the ability to nominate people beyond that, if that's the case. So I guess that was my question, is why that versus any other protected class or special needs or special interest group?
Yeah, and I would echo those concerns. I don't know that we have an answer of why this group and not many of the other groups, but I do feel that it opens a can of worms, and the board of directors should be representing all students, all classes, and I just think it could, like you said, Bill, could be endless, and so I have concerns about this one, and just feel like I'm probably going to be a no-go on this one. So,
Do we know how many people are on? Because they talk about this being a board advisory committee. Where's Oregon? But to have them on a special seat on there. Do you know how many seats are available on this? And are there any other special interest groups already on there, for example, that I wouldn't know about? But
it's getting pulled up right now, I think.
Just gonna look because I was. There are 20, it has up to 23 directors, each elected on a regional basis. I know last year they made a change where there was an additional representative from small and rural districts because of the numbers that exist. The board also includes non-voting ex officio members.
That would probably be like the executive director, few.
Yeah, so they meet past president of the Oregon Association of School Executives, someone from Confederation of Oregon School Administrators, Oregon Association of Educational Service Districts, Community College Association, Oregon School Board of Education. So there's 23 directors, each elected by the membership on a regional basis for a 2 calendar year term.
thank you.
42.
Any other comments on this? We have a couple options if someone feels strongly one way or the other. So we need 4 votes for or against. Obviously, would fail, but we need 4 for it, or it will fail. So even though we only have 4 people here, we're a 7-member board, so we need 4 to vote for it. So we could table it. We could table this resolution if there's strong feelings one way or the other.
We have to submit the notification by December 15th. So in that case, for us, it would be no action.
Okay,
If there was
okay,
no vote.
okay. I'm sorry, I should have read that. Okay, so we do need to either take action, or we could take no action, or we could vote it down. So, any other comments? Okay, if there's no other comments, is there a motion to bring it up for a vote? And then here's this.
I know, I've seen that.
Yeah, so,
This is their resolution.
gotcha. So without a motion to bring it to a vote, we would be marking no action taken. And so if there's no objection to that, or but correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't have a motion, so we will do a no action taken at this time. Okay? All right. Resolution 3 adopts the proposed amendments to the OSBA bylaws. You want to read through the bylaws real quick? No, I'm just kidding.
Quickly.
So my understanding is if we went on a no vote on resolution 2, then we can't do resolution 3, right? Because that adds all of resolution 2 to the bylaws. Correct?
Oh.
If that's in the bylaws?
Great question. Good catch.
If that's in the bylaws, yes.
Because if you go to page 31 on here, page 8, who's on there somewhere? Caucus Council, Leadership Council, someone on here that was the page I saw again.
There's caucus leadership 9.
Oh, it's Article 1, Chapter or OSBA. Acknowledge the diversity.
Okay.
Maybe that's not changes. That's I don't know if that because it starts talking here about the Pride Caucus.
Mm-hmm.
To this end, the OSBA. This is I'm on page 6 out of 31. Like that third paragraph down. Recognize the Oregon School Board Pride Caucus to serve as a resource, provide guidance, leadership for these initiatives. The OSB Board of Directors.
There's so on the first page that has a summary of the bylaw changes. Right there.
So this is it.
Oh, okay.
You see that?
Yep.
Sorry, what I'm looking at is different than everybody else. Did you see it?
Well, I see where it is talking about the caucus. The caucus was already, there was already a group. They just didn't have a voting seat on the.
Okay.
boards, was my
There's an
understanding.
advisory.
If there was an advisory group, was my understanding, but I feel like I need to.
Yeah.
I'm reading a little more here.
There's a summary right here. on this.
Yeah, so the other, just to back up a little bit, because I think, well, one is the thing. I think you're right.
So is 3 encompassing of all, or is it its own? What we're trying to figure out, right?
Yeah, that's what
Right.
we're looking for,
Okay.
yeah.
Right. I'm looking at Article 7 is Executive Committee.
Here's the summary. Yes.
Doesn't talk about the dues in this one. This is kind of a resolution.
Yeah, it was right after the dues. It's the next page after the dues breakdown, chart breakdown. It's the next one that says resolution for bylaws.
Here, board, look, it's the very, it's that, they're separate. The second, you found it.
Last one.
Yeah.
Yes.
The last one or the first one?
This one right here. And then the summary is right there of the change.
Oh, got it. Okay, thank you.
So I really am thinking that This is whereas the substantive changes to the draft OSBA bylaws are the following. And it does add that caucus director in the bylaws. So I would say, yes, I think if the board wishes on resolution 2 to not take action on that, I don't know if we can not take action on. Oh, okay, okay. So we cannot take action on the bylaws as well. Or we can approve them. I mean, I'm just, what are all of our options are. So, but yes, it does look like what was mentioned in resolution 2 is then added in resolution 3 as bylaws.
Okay.
So. And so if there's no other discussion or questions, I would entertain a motion if there is one. And if not, the board will take no action. So, last chance. Okay, so we will take no action on resolution 3 as well.
I was just reading, sorry.
Oh, that's okay. Yeah. We have thrown you guys a curveball here. So.
Now we have to take a full action on the resolution itself, and I will make those changes.
Okay.
To read no action. But it was approved. So that
So,
would be a full, sorry.
do I have a resolution?
Yes. I think it's going to be, if you're gonna,
There it is.
when we do this next time, it's so easy.
Okay.
Oh, is that new system make it a lot easier?
Yeah, it's super easy than what you guys are trying to do.
So, board members, now what we'll do is we have all three of those resolutions in resolution 2025-01. Tabitha will change what says support opposes. There's options for each one of them. She will put supports, amends the OSBA dues schedule, no action for the caucus board of directors representation, and also no action on adopting the proposed amendments to the OSBA bylaws. Is that correct?
Correct.
And so I need a motion with what I've stated to approve resolution 2025-01.
Did we already do that?
We approved
Now we're approving it
We're-
as you just stated,
Yeah.
right? Where we have
in
approved
a
the
resolution
first one,
form.
but not the second two.
Yes, so this will state that resolution 1, we support, resolution 2,
No action.
no action, and resolution 3, and it
No
puts it,
action.
yeah, and it puts it all in one resolution
So now we're making a motion to agree on that.
on that, yes.
I
Yes.
make a motion to.
I know,
On 6.1.
yes, there you go. It's
Oh,
clear as mud.
that's the OSBA dues schedule, but no motion for the Pride Caucus, and also no motion to adopt the proposed amendments to OSBA bylaw.
Okay, that's good.
I second.
Dr. Anna has made the motion, Kellen has seconded. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed unanimously.
Oh, that was a doozy. Good job, guys.
My head hurts a little bit, so. Okay. With that, we've got 6.1. Then we're moving on to announcements. Board members, we don't have any other meetings this month. There is a regular board meeting January 8th, 2024, 2025.
Ooh.
2025 at 6:15 right here.
And I just wanted a reminder, because it wasn't said, but I'm gonna be sending out the superintendent evaluation this week. So if you please look at it, and I'll tell you what I need from you.
Okay.
So lots of things that I'm sending you, but because that will happen at the January meeting. And if you have any questions on what that looks like, you can contact me, Dave. Development and help in it. So, but I will be sending that out this week.
All right.
The document we looked at last.
Yeah. Sitting on the counter. So, okay. Any other announcements? I think that's the only meeting. This is January 8th. And then just the board member communication. Any comments by board members?
Yeah, I just have a quick question.
Yes.
Who is taking the place of Jennifer Porter for math at 7 o'clock?
We have, I'm sorry. We have a gentleman named JP Romero. He was a substitute that was new to substituting in our county, and we were very lucky to find him because what we found out was he had a minor in math and had actually been through a teaching program, I would understand, in another state. And so I don't know his full backstory. So he actually was subbing and filling in during a period of time, and both principals went in and observed him and said he's doing really well. He was well received by freshman students. So he will be staying in that position as long as we need him. It's still open and advertised, but the plan is to stay.
My sophomore plays him.
Yeah, I think they talked with their freshman success team, and the feedback was the kids just really, really liked him, and it was going well, and the instruction was really good, and so it was a process. We didn't just throw somebody in there. The principal took very serious.
Good.
And it was just a lucky.
Yeah.
However, it happened.
Great.
Yeah.
Awesome. I'm really glad to hear that.
Okay. Any other board member comments? Okay, I don't have any comments as well, so anything else? Okay, thank you. Meeting adjourned.
Nice work, team.
Merry Christmas.
Woo! Merry Christmas.
and
Merry
Happy
Christmas.
New
Yes.
Year.
Oh, it has to be that different.
Yeah, I just typed it right there. So I'll have to go ahead and but it will be,
Some student Anderson for you.
I just want to make sure we're also.
Yep, that's a percentage. And that's just from the.
I know, I'm out there.
Right.
I do so many things.
Yeah.
Yeah, really interesting. So is it allowed? I don't know. But
They provide a huge amount of funds that probably students were not related or perhaps.
Not at that, I don't know that level.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Like with actual. I'm going to a vibrant. We can use it in such a huge way.
Yes.
And so they, for HR,
drive
to have
around.
budgets for things like that, it's just such a huge thing.
Yeah.